Welcome back everyone to video 3 in the building of our 116 Trophy Challenger. As you can see, we've been out and about, visited Cadwell for a track day, took along several of the members of Team Hamster. We had a fantastic time, saw some of the other 116s out testing. And finished the day off with some supplies from our headline sponsor, the Sausage Man. So that's rear end jacked up, time to get the wheels off, start stripping out this rear subframe. So, rear brakes now stripped, just struggling with getting the cable out of this side. That's really well seized in there. The other side was as well, but we got it out in the end. You can just see it hanging down over that side. I've undone both the brake pipes, but as you can see they're both snapped off, even though they didn't actually look too bad. Little bit corroded, but nothing major. They definitely weren't going to come undone. Anyway, we're getting close now. Nearly everything disconnected, wheel speed sensors and brake pad sensors and things all disconnected, so now it's just a case of taking these two front plates off and then one big bolt here, one big bolt here, same on the other side, and I can either undo the top of the strut and just lower the whole thing down together, or I can undo the bottom of the shock and just knock that off before I drop it. I'll probably do it that way, then I can take the spring out easily, and then it's a little bit less to lift down. But that's the front of the diff is all disconnected. I've got the prop off now, you can just about see that there, and the exhaust and everything's obviously all out of the way, so hopefully pretty soon we'll have this all on the floor and then I can start stripping this. You see it's definitely in need of a coat of paint, but I think it will definitely live again. Rear axle off, just starting to take the diff out of it. Going to completely remove all the suspension arms, probably get the 4 lower arms powder coated and replace all the upper arms as they're a bit on the more flimsy side, and you can see they look a little bit bent in places to me. That one looks more flared than that side. I have had it on a geo ramp before I stripped it all and I couldn't get everything totally straight, so I suspect that those thinner arms are not totally straight, so we will just replace them all. There we go, diff out, suspension off, pretty much in one piece. I've taken a couple of the arms off as we went. It's not in terrible condition, obviously a bit of surface rust, but I think that'll all clean up quite nicely. So now just to try and get all of these bushes out. Been in there a good 15 years or so. Some of them are not going to come out very easily. Definitely need doing because they're all cracking, but we'll be replacing them with motorsport ones anyway. These large subframe mounts are going to be a lot of fun, but we'll see how we get on. This is the offside rear hub that I've removed off the car now. I'm going to replace this hub in total. So I think the offside rear had a bit of a crash at some point. There was obviously body damage on both sides, but the suspension on this side, things like this parcel tape on the drive shaft makes me suspect that that's come from a breakage yard. This stone guard's got a couple of little slits in it, like a hacksaw or something's been on there, and most importantly, this top fixing here, the thread had been completely ripped out of it. When I first inspected the car, I basically just put a longer bolt with a nut in because that arm was loose and you couldn't do it up. So I've got a whole new hub that we'll put on the car. Just need to strip out the useful bits, the lower arm, drive shaft, and everything's pretty tight. It's been on here for a good few years. There we go. Although that is from what looks like a breakage yard, it's actually a perfectly good and usable drive shaft, so I'll have that on the car, give it a clean up obviously, and then it'll be fine. We'll have that lower arm. That arm I need to measure. I don't know if that's straight or not. The top arm and this arm are definitely going in the bin. They've seen better days. There we have the last bush out. That has been an awful lot of fun, I have to say. That's taken me basically a whole day. The first few went absolutely fine, but then the last two front ones, that one and that one, which were these bushes here, they really didn't want to come out, strangely, because the ones in the rear, they popped out straight away, and these two lower arm mounts, they have been an awful lot of fun. They've clearly, swollen inside, and that took an awful lot of work to get those out. So that's a shame, but I have started the grinding. It's going to be nice and clean before it gets painted, and then it'll all be ready to go back on with its new bushes in. A couple of coats of primer and then into the first coat of orange. I went to Workshop 77. I have to thank David very much for letting me use his nice new press. A couple of brand new front wheel bearings in, and then I started to put some of the bushes into the actual subframe itself, followed by an awful lot of bushes into all of the new arms. Eventually the diff was ready to go back in after a coat of paint. The bushes all went into the arms and the suspension was built up, thanks to Sisu Customs for powder coating the lower arms for us. And there it is, rear axle all built up and ready to take some new brakes. And speaking of brakes, I'm very proud to announce our new partner at Team Hamster. And there it is, finally, with all of the arms on. Drive shaft pressed in on this side. I've still got to sort out the drive shaft on the other side, but we're going to put it in now. All of the new bushes are in, everything's torqued up, painted diff in, torqued up. We've got new lower shock mounts, we've got the rose joints in the hubs. That was a real sod, and I had to go and borrow a press again to do that, but that's all in and all brand new. New wheel bearings. Really, it should work. And there it is, finally in. I was going to try and do a stop motion video of us fitting it the other night, but by the time we had it up it was well and truly dark, so the video just sort of didn't really show you much other than our feet and us messing around on the floor. It's not perfect, I don't deny that for a second. We've chipped it in a couple of places and I need to just get some dirt and rubbish off it where we've been lifting it up and messing around and tightening things up. It didn't want to line up straight away, so we did faff around for quite a while, but it is on. We've got all the new suspension in. I want to get everything else in the wheel arches out, sooner or later and get that all painted, get that all nice and tidy. But the subframe is finally back on, so I'm just about to start putting the prop back on. I should have a drive shaft for that side turning up today, and then hopefully I can get all the discs and everything on, get the wheels back on it, turn it around so I can finally start working on the engine chain. Yay! Good, so drive shaft arrived, got that in, an awful lot easier than the other side thankfully. Just tapped in all right, and the nutter's done up. I just need to flare the ends over when I get it off. Just in the process of fitting new wheel studs, might as well get them on while everything's off, and then I can pop the disc back on, put it on its wheels and finally turn it round. Here we have one of the joys of building your own race car at home. The car has obviously been in the garage facing forwards for probably about 6 weeks. Rear axle all back on, car finally dropped on its wheels, gone to pull the car out and turn it around so I can get on with the engine, and the steering lock has stuck on, connected up the battery and everything. It seems to be quite a common fault with the E87 anyway, having a look online. Typically the wheels are only slightly at an angle, but it means it won't actually get out of the garage. So here I am sat in the car in the garage, just attempting to remove the steering lock. So steering column now dropped off. I've removed the top cover, which underneath it has this lovely little circuit board and motor, which moves the steering lock backwards and forwards. Basically I'm going to unplug it, wind it back so the lock's held off, and leave it like that for now, at least, just to get it out of the garage. Thankfully that worked, and the car was then able to go back on the floor, turned round, back in the garage, so it's now the right way round. I can get on with all of the engine work, and that will be coming in the next video. I'd like to thank Johnny from Sisu Customs for the powder coating, David from Workshop 77 for the use of some of his facilities, and of course I'd like to welcome our new sponsors, EBC Brakes. Do keep an eye on our socials, there will be more information about that. Hopefully a discount code and stuff will be coming in the not too distant future. And don't forget to check out our other sponsors. Obviously our headline sponsor, the Sausage Man, who you saw earlier, does fantastic stuff if you're having a barbecue. We've got R&D Advisors, MSG windscreens, Rimax lubricants, Pure Sign, a whole host of people who thankfully have all come to support us and make sure that we can go racing next year. And thank you very much everybody, and lastly I'd like to thank the neighbours who saw me struggling pushing the car around and came to give me a hand putting it back in the garage. See you all next time.